Hello, this is psychologist Yulia Latunenko with you. Today we'll talk about narcissists again. What is the most important thing for a narcissist? What does he absolutely need? What can't he live without? If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Give this video a like and remember that every comment you leave with more than 7 words really helps promote my channel on YouTube. So this is the most important thing for narcissists. And the first thing I'll start with is probably point number 1. This is the most important thing, is the profound feeling of shame, which narcissists actively avoid and will do everything humanly possible and even seemingly impossible things to desperately escape from. This deeply ingrained avoidance is, in essence, their most significant Achilles heel. Narcissists will avoid situations where, in their opinion, they might be seen as losers, where they might look ridiculous, where they might receive some negative evaluation, or where their competence might be called into question. Narcissists will avoid all of these situations. Or in relationships, narcissists also avoid the feeling of shame. That is why they prevent such situations by devaluing their partner, because by devaluing their partner, the narcissist boosts their own self-esteem, feeds, nourishes their ego at their partner's expense. At their partner's expense in a hacker-like way, breaking into their psyche. The narcissist increases their sense of importance in this way, avoiding feelings of shame. A narcissist can experience feelings of shame at any unpredictable moment, even when you would say that there is absolutely no reason for it to arise. They possess a very deeply wounded self-esteem, in actual reality a profoundly low self-esteem, and their primary compensatory defense mechanism is to excessively inflate their perceived self-worth to truly grandiose proportions and assiduously try to appear grand, utterly unique, and absolutely unparalleled in the discerning eyes of others. The feeling of shame greatly ruins the lives of narcissists and those around them, because the narcissist tries to cope with their own sense of shame and worthlessness at the expense of others. It is precisely because of this significant and deeply rooted problem with shame that narcissists consistently try to be among their chosen circle, whether that group is relatively small or considerably large, and to actively strive to be influential leaders. This applies to both small and large groups, as well as circles of friends. They consistently try to seize the symbolic palm, the esteemed palm branch of leadership for themselves. They actively strive to be perceived as, or genuinely appear to be, the most exceptionally competent and highly authoritative individuals within their immediate circle, primarily because they absolutely cannot tolerate or stand being relegated to a secondary or subordinate role. That is why you often hear narcissistic people say things like, "I told you so," or "Didn't I tell you?" Even if they didn't actually say it, you'll still hear, "I told you so," just to assert themselves, to imply that they predicted it, that they're so smart and you just didn't listen. "I'm so authoritative, so competent, and yet you didn't listen to me." So, because of the very problem I mentioned in point number 1, narcissists compete with others. Moreover, they don't know how to cooperate, they don't know how to compete in a fair or friendly way, and they don't know how to lose, so their competition is always toxic. They compete for survival. For them, falling flat on their face is, well, almost like death. They take it very hard, which is why their competition can be extremely devious, toxic, malicious, and covert. Because of this competition, even if it's hidden, they'll never admit they're competing. They can be passive-aggressive and mean. Narcissistic people are focused on what they don't have. They are focused on their deficiencies. That is precisely why they often envy individuals who achieve significantly more, who possess considerably more. They are focused on their shortcomings. It's never enough for them. That's exactly why they feel envy. They don't know how to admire and say, "Oh, I see you have this and I also want to have it." They say it differently. "Oh, you have this. Yes, I want to have it too. But I also want you not to have it." This envy that narcissistic people experience is toxic. But you might quite reasonably point out to me that even a normal, healthy individual can indeed have such narcissistic patterns if they have experienced some significant childhood traumas related to their self-esteem. Yes, narcissistic traits can also be present in people who do not have narcissistic personality disorder. But if you noticed any of the signs I listed in this video, it means you need to work on your self-esteem and on perceiving yourself and your surroundings more adequately. For a truly narcissistic individual, it is profoundly important to consistently feed and meticulously nourish their insatiable ego. And they accomplish this not only with genuine, verifiable achievements, significant accomplishments that they proudly boast about and ostentatiously flaunt at virtually every conceivable opportunity, but also with entirely fabricated, cleverly invented, and often wildly unrealistic accomplishments, elaborate stories they meticulously craft and enthusiastically tell about themselves, purely and simply to continually feed their enormous, demanding ego. If they have nothing to boast about at all, they will feed their ego at the expense of others and will criticize, belittle, act condescendingly towards someone, mock them, constantly give unsolicited advice, or lecture the person on how to live. They simply can't do without it. It's just hardwired into them. These are default settings by default. That's why a narcissistic person will live according to this pattern, and they won't understand why people don't want to communicate with them or why their relationships with friends and loved ones fall apart. After all, they're so wonderful. Maybe it's just that you didn't understand how unique and wonderful they are. Narcissistic people are only capable of vertical relationships. If you're oriented toward partnership, a person with narcissistic disorder won't be able to stay by your side. They'll either run away from you or you'll leave them. Such people most often choose dependent or codependent individuals as partners and hook them either on emotional or financial dependence. So, how do you get someone hooked emotionally? Show up, charm them, and then disappear. Everyone knows the game, closer than farther, hot and cold. This is typical of narcissistic people. In this way, they increase emotional tension in the relationship and create this very codependency because of the unfinished Gestalt. Yes, they appeared, charmed, showed off their feathers like a peacock, and then disappeared, right? The person is left with an unfinished Gestalt. What was that? Then they show up again as if nothing ever happened and don't even explain what that was all about. So if you notice this kind of discrete behavior where a person appears and disappears, it means, well, that's a red flag. This person might have a narcissistic disorder. And if a narcissistic person has already entered into a relationship with you, they will idealize you. They truly elevate you to some kind of truly otherworldly and magnificent heights, creating for you your own perfect and ideal image, a vision of unparalleled beauty. You fall in love with your own idealized image, which the narcissist reflects back to you, and then you are devalued and discarded. And that is very painful, but you need to understand that in reality, you are not breaking up with the narcissist, but with that ideal image of yourself that the narcissist created for you. And it is this, precisely this, that is so painful. You want to get all of that back, just like it was at the beginning of the romantic relationship, when he idealized you, when he carried you in his arms, or she. Yes, narcissistic disorder is not limited by gender. It is characteristic not only of men, but also of women. Female narcissists are also quite common. That's why such a person will idealize, devalue, and discard. And this is very destructive for anyone. What else is characteristic of people with narcissistic disorder? It's that instead of feelings, they have learned behaviors. Well, to put it this way, they are cold, they are empty inside. There is a shell, but inside there is emptiness. If they display any feelings, most likely it's learned behavior. They are very sensitive to this. They study how to show emotions. And they do this completely unconsciously. It's not intentional, that's just how they are built. They learn to display emotions at the moment when it's necessary to show them. So, most likely, all of this will seem very insincere, rehearsed, and formal. You should be able to sense that some of their emotional reactions are formal. A narcissistic person does not exist, does not live in reality. They try to appear a certain way that is not to be, but to look a certain way in the eyes of others. This is exactly why a narcissist changes their masks. Internally, they are not there. There is no real self inside. But what exists are just wrappings, masks that they change from one situation to another. That's why the lying, the formality, the sense of coldness, the formality, the feeling of coldness and mechanical behavior will never leave you if you find yourself in a relationship with such a person. Or perhaps your parents are like that. This also causes a lot of suffering for a person if they grew up in a narcissistic family. If you have such parents, or if your work environment is like this, or if your partner is like this, it means you have childhood traumas, you are codependent, and you need to work through this. And as always, I ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button, give this video a like if you found it useful, and leave your comments. Are there indeed people in your immediate environment who truly live according to the specific pattern that I have carefully described in this very video?